I don't usually start off by showing you the finished painting, but this is the painting that this week's video is going to be, and just showing you some of the details that I'm going to be going through. So I'll show you how I get these really nice skies and the soft sort of dreamy light clouds, and then I'm using the pen to get some of the branches and twigs and sticks, and then also to include some water in the middle. So popping through the trees, I've left a little bit of water, so I'll show you some of the techniques that I use to get some of these things done. So welcome back, this is Dave Lowe from Get Some Colour in Your Life. If you've not been on my channel before, then welcome. Hopefully you check out all my other videos. I've got plenty for beginner friendly tutorials, so head over and have a look at my different videos. So as always, I start out using this hake brush. You can use any sort of brush, but I think the bigger the better. This is a number 1 inch hake brush, so I tend to always use this to cover the sky area and then any other areas that need a lot of covering. So I'm just concentrating on just popping a bit of grey, a bit of cerulean blue, and it takes a little bit of practice, but you can see how I've painted my sky, and it's pretty much just a few strokes of the brush, just a little bit of confidence. I think that's all you need. Plenty of practice, and just don't be afraid, don't be scared of what happens on paper. And I find with watercolour, more than any other medium, it's best to sort of let the watercolour, or at least let the water sort of control the colours. You just have a little bit of input of manipulation of the pigments, but that's pretty much it. So in order to get nice soft clouds, if you've seen my videos before, you'll see I just use the same brush, just wash it out and squeeze out any excess, and then just soften the edges of the darks for the lighter areas, and that'll give you the clouds. Now you can also use different colours to introduce, just to warm the sky up. So I've taken yellow ochre as my colour. I really like yellow ochre when it's in the sky, in clouds, and just gives a nice warm colour, warm contrast. And then for the same mix that I've used in the sky, this Payne's grey, you could use neutral tint, bit of cerulean blue or ultramarine, and then just use plenty of water, and I'm painting this while the paper's still wet, and that'll give me this soft diffused look. And these are mountains that I want in the background, so they're quite far away, quite distant. And now I'm just adding some colour to the bottom. This will be another layer of mountains. I like to do that in watercolour. I like to do that when I paint. It just adds some depth to the scene. And again, this is using yellow ochre. You may notice that I've switched brushes as well. This is Isobay. It's an Isobay size 2/0, and it's a nice round brush. It also holds plenty of water. And then just to pull out some highlights of the mountains, you can use this similar to when I did the clouds in the sky. Just clean off the brush and then squeeze out the excess, and then just take the pigment. Just use the same. You want to try and find the contours of the mountains, and it's just pulling out some highlights of light, and that's all I'm doing there. So it's quite easy to do. Again, it may take a little bit of practice, but it really is quite easy to do. And if you're enjoying this video so far, then please don't forget to hit the like, and also subscribe to see all my videos on this channel, the beginner friendly, and for more advanced as well. So I'm just going in now with a darker mix. This is a bit of Van Dyke brown, a bit of that grey, and just a bit of blue. And you could use any sort of dark colour, and this is just to give the mountains a little bit more depth and a bit more interest. There really is no rush doing this. You can take your time and really focus on what you're doing. It's probably best to start off with a reference, but if you know me, if you've seen any of my videos before, I do like to paint and just sort of make the scene up. But for this one, I did have a plan, some sort of image in my head. I knew that I wanted some sort of forest in the foreground. So what I'm doing here, I'm actually covering the background. So where the forest, where there's gaps, there's going to be colour, and that's what I had in mind when I covered this foreground. And you may also notice a little bit of dry brush there, and I've gone across, and because of the texture of the paper, this is rough paper, it's Fabriano Artistico paper, and I'm using the M. Graham watercolour pigments. And also I will be using some of this Cotman Chinese white watercolour as well. So with this sparkle in the middle where the paint's broken and missed the paper, I'm going to use that for a little bit of water. So maybe a lake of some sort of body of water. And you'll be able to see that through the trees. So I'm purposely going to leave a little gap, so that's going to create a little bit of interest as well. So with the Hake brush, I'm using side on, so I'm getting these basic tree shapes, and I'm not too fussed at the moment, just going in and just creating those background trees for now. And I'll do the same on the other side, mindful of that bit of white area. And it is a bit dark, it's a bit too harsh, the white, so I will be going over and covering it with a little bit of pale pigment, pale sort of grey to reflect the sky. But that's pretty much what I'm doing so far. Now one of my favourite techniques in watercolour is using a credit card just to scratch out some highlights. And you can use this in the trees, as you can see. These are just some of the trunks that are catching the light, so I'm using that technique to create some light trunks as well. You may be able to see some of the paler tree trunks, and that's where I've painted it with the white gouache. So I think if I'd have maybe had a couple more layers to that, maybe that would have come out a bit better. I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments what you think. Just wanted to have a little bit of a highlight on one side of the tree, just as I cover with some of the dark, so that you have this nice contrast. But let me know what you think. I think I could have done this a little bit better, but it's trial and error. You know, you got to try these things and hope for the best. Just adding some details of the trees now. So I've got my main body of trees, shapes, and just going in now to define some of the trees and some of the branches and all the different foliage. And I will be using some of my fine line pens once I get some more pigment down. So a lot of it is just stuff. It's just marks. You don't have to paint details. You just go in and just wave a brush around, and it's handy to also use the side of the brush like I'm doing now. So you get all these broken edges, and it gives you more of like a generic tree shape, rather than try and paint the shape itself. The rougher the paper, the more texture on it, the more of a break you get. So you can take advantage of the paper, the surface that you use, and it is good to have some texture. There is the smooth paper you can try, but obviously it's a different sort of painting experience. You don't get the texture, so you have more control. You have to control it a bit more. Now I'm just using the credit card just to scrape out some rocks. One of my favourite techniques in watercolour, and it's quite easy to do. Just practice a couple of times and I'm sure you can get some really nice effects. And I've said in my videos before, if you're stuck for something to do in the foreground of any landscape painting, especially when you're making the scenes up, then you can always get a credit card and scrape out some rocks. And then once you've done that, got your highlights, you just go in and add some darker tones just to help those really pop. And it does make a really nice, interesting foreground. So that's another thing you can do. There's different ways of doing things in watercolor, but it's quite easy to scrape out and add the darks and get some really nice effects, some really nice rocks in your scene. So I've just, if you are new to my channel, I've just hit my 6-year anniversary. I got a message, a notification from YouTube just the other day congratulating me on the 6-year anniversary. So it's quite a milestone, and I know when I first started there was a lot of people that I followed and YouTubers alike, and you see some of them just sort of disappear. They seem to be having a really good following, quite a lot of support, and then they just disappear and you just wonder what's happened. And it's kind of sad, but that's why it is important to drop a like. If you drop a comment, we do love to hear your comments. I do love reading comments that you leave, and I always do answer while I can. But it just helps those YouTubers to keep going, and knowing that there's people out there like yourselves who do appreciate these videos and hopefully learn as you watch and pick up some handy tips. Because when I first started watercolor, there really wasn't any sort of not much in the way of help. It was pretty much a library book from the library, and that was pretty much it. There was no YouTube when I first started when I was 16, and so it was something really that I self-taught myself. I did actually watch a program, Alwyn Crawshaw. He used to be painting on the TV, and I happened to catch that program once, and it was while I was at art college. But they didn't really teach much painting or any painting at college, and it was just something that I went ahead and bought my little set, my first set of watercolours. They were actually Cotman, and I actually used those for quite a number of years, quite a long time before I started buying the more expensive brands of watercolour pigments. But you can get a really nice painting, you can really get some nice quality student grade watercolor paints, especially if you're starting out. The only thing I would recommend if you are a beginner to watercolor is the paper that you use is probably more important than the pigment. You can always go ahead and purchase some more expensive pigment once you get more experience. For me, I was probably painting more than 10 years before I did buy some professional grade. So it's not really a big deal, the pigments you use, but the paper, I think you can get some really nice, you can do really much better paintings, produce much better art if you use more of an expensive, or at least a decent sort of watercolor paper. And there's plenty out there. There's Bockingford, which I do like, which is a wood pulp paper, and I used to use that quite a lot. You can get packs of it, really inexpensive, and if you don't know where to go, then there's Jackson's online. They ship all around the world, so I'd like to use those for my supplies. If you're not lucky enough to have a art supply shop close by, you can always order them online, and they have deals every now and then on certain brands. But it's just a trial and error. Just keep practicing, keep watching the YouTube, the followers, the people that you follow, the people that you like to see paint. Just keep watching them, keep painting, keep practicing as and when you can, and things do become that much easier. It's just like driving a car, driving a bike. You sort of the more experience you get, the more air miles you put in, the easier it becomes. And sometimes people don't believe it's that easy. But I think once you do practice and practice and practice some more, just keep practicing, and you will get there. Well, I hope you like this one. I hope this has been useful. It's quite a different scene. I've took a little bit of time. It's probably took me a couple of hours to do this painting, but there is no rush. You can sort of go at your own pace. I do quite a lot of paintings quite quickly, but this one I wanted to take a little bit more time and show you what can be achieved, and that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks ever so much for your comments, for your likes, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.